Okay, so a couple nights ago, Friday night specifically, I watched Scream 6. And I was hoping to get this out the next day, or at least the day after, but life stuff got in the way. Like, nothing crazy by any means. It's just, yeah, Saturday was pretty busy between Fire Emblem and then Pathfinder. We had a really long session. And then Sunday, I worked, and then we just kind of did some other shit. And by the time that was all done, it was a little too dark to be able to record in my car. And there's a bunch of people in the house, so I'm not going to record in my room. Right now, there's no one in the house, so I'm like, I don't mind recording in my room. So now I can finally talk about this ding dang movie. So, point number one, spoilers are going to be abound for the video. But what I want to do is kind of divide the video into about 3 different sections, probably not equal sections. Part number 1 is, here is my, so like the other Scream movies are fair game. Like 1 through 5, I will spoil them without abandon. I am assuming you have seen them or you are okay with me talking about them with no issue. So, first part of the video is no spoilers for 6. Part 2 of the video is here's some mild spoilers for 6. Like, I'll go into some specific scenes, like the opening scene in particular, which I really liked, and like a couple other things. And then the final part, which like, here's the major spoilers. Niall will talk about the Ghostface reveal or reveals. I know how many killers there are, but I will not say it at this point. Could be 1, could be 2, who the fuck knows. And, I mean, it's usually 2, it's a Scream movie. But, hey, I mean, they even bring up how in Scream 3, there was a dude that was only once. Maybe this movie falls in that 6 is a multiple of 3. Anyways, point. That's when I'll talk about Ghostface, who is behind the mask, what I thought of the reveal, etc., etc. So, starting off with the not spoilery for Scream 6 part, let me just talk about what I think of the series as a whole. Excuse me, I'm pretty sure I've talked about this in some of just my other random videos. I'm not someone who is big into horror. It's something I'm trying to get into more. Like, I was a scaredy cat growing up. I was scared of everything. I think a big part of that was I was exposed to Final Destination at a young age, and that put the fear and paranoia of death in me since I was like 7 or 8, and it fucked me up for a long time. But, Chucky was something I was scared of for a really long time. But then I started watching the show. Again, I know I've said this before. Shout out to the Dead Meat channel and that team. I love that channel. It's one of the big things that's got me more into horror. Because I've always thought the concept of horror and like monster movies, slasher movies, all that shit was always really interesting. I always wanted to know what would happen, but didn't want to watch it myself. And essentially this channel allows me to watch horror movies without watching horror movies. Which I know they say in every video. Go watch the movie for yourself. Some of them particularly, like, this one's really good, or like, there's some really interesting plot shit. You really should go see it for yourself, preferably before the kill count so you watch it unspoiled. I'm like, I know, but I'm probably not going to get a chance to anyways. Like, let me just enjoy the video. Let's go. But their channel has definitely made me a lot more open to watching horror, and I credit them wholeheartedly for being the reason I was like, all right, let me watch this Chucky show. And as you can tell by some of my videos, I really like the show, and now I want to watch the other movies. But anyways, talking about Scream, because Scream is something I've actually been into before getting into Dead Meat, and before trying to get more into horror. I already liked the Scream movies. Scream 1 is possibly my favorite horror movie. Again, like, I have a pretty small pool to pick from personally, but I love it. I love the twist. I love the idea that, oh no, it is 2 killers. That's not something from what I understand, even at the time, that was a huge twist. But even to me, as someone who's very casual, I'm like, yeah, isn't it usually one guy is the killer? Like, this is actually kind of really interesting. And, the movie can be pretty funny. I love its meta commentary. Honestly, the only other horror movie I can think of that's like, this is my favorite is The Thing, because The Thing is fucking incredible. But, Scream 2, I don't remember. Like, I remember the killers. I remember... Sorry, I said I remember the killers, and then, like, Mr. Brightside popped into my head. It's like, okay, I remember them too, but I'm not talking about those killers. But I remember the killers. I remember the setting that's, like, it's in school. I remember there's a part where Dewey gets stabbed multiple times and is fine because he's Dewey fucking Riley. I remember that this is the movie where Randy dies. It's kind of it. Like, I remember some of the important bits. I don't remember a lot of the specific plot points. So when I kind of do a ranking of the Scream movies, I can't include 2 because I just don't remember it. Then there's Scream 3, which kind of like 2. I don't super remember it, but I do remember my vibe watching it of being like, what the fuck? Like, this is not as good. This is a really weak Ghostface. Like, oh, it's okay. I liked it, but it's not as good as 2, and it's certainly not as good as 1. Like, I feel like in any Scream ranking, like, again, me personally, I'm not trying to judge other people's rankings. We all have our own opinions. From what I remember, like, I sincerely cannot rate 2, but I feel like my memory says 3 was the worst one. Now, I would not be opposed to rewatching them at some point. I'd actually really like to. And then, yeah, maybe I'd be like, okay, Scream 3 is dumb, but Scream 3 is fun. And maybe I'll watch 2 and be like, 2 just doesn't do it for me. This is actually the worst one. I don't know, but I would be interested in doing it. And Scream 4 and 5 I both watched last year. I think I watched Scream 5 first, and I was like, man, I fucking love these movies. Let me watch 4. And then when I did watch 4, I thought, oh, okay, I don't think it's as good as the first one, but damn, like, I loved Scream 4. And to me, a lot of it really comes down to the Ghostface reveal. Like, the movie is definitely more visceral and violent, which to me does not necessarily make it better than a lot of the others, although, you know, it does make it more intense, I think. But that reveal at the end of the movie, like, this is who the other killer is, which I know I'm talking about, like, I'll spoil everything. I kind of don't even want to because of just how exciting that was. And, like, this is my plan. I just want to become famous. You know, I see all the things that have happened to you, Sidney Prescott, how there's books made about you. I think at this point, like, Sidney is writing her own book. Like, this is my story of everything that happened. You know, Diane Sawyer with Cotton Weary and, like, all this other shit. Like, this is all, I want that. So if I kill a bunch of people and I'm the sole survivor, I get what you have. Let's go. And kind of like what I was talking about in my Shark Tale video about how it's something that's really about internet culture and like that whole kind of clout philosophy, like clout chasing. This is a movie that to me feels a little ahead of its time, and I really, because this was 2010, so still modern enough to be able to get the, you know, get the pulse on that, but a little too early to get it that accurately. It's like, I gotta give it its credit. And yeah, the scene where Ghostface afterwards is like, okay, now I have to stage the scene is probably one of my favorite scenes in any Scream movie. It is fantastic. Scream 5, I have my issues with it. I think to me, the biggest issue, I can't say it's killing Dewey, although, I mean, you gotta pour one out for my boy. I fucking love Dewey. It was, I didn't like seeing him go, and then you're like, yeah, I mean, he got overpowered by the killer, but the killer's like 5'3" on a good day. With like no muscle on her body, I don't know how much I buy it. I think to me the big problem was the whole Billy Loomis thing. It's like, oh, the main character is the illegitimate daughter of Billy Loomis. Really? Like, kind of like this is what we're doing? It kind of like in Scream 3 when it's like, oh, the main antagonist is the secret half-brother of Sidney Prescott. Really? That's what we're doing? Okay. This feels kind of silly, but okay. That's kind of how I felt with the Billy Loomis reveal. And then she keeps seeing him as a fucking force ghost, just telling her to kill people, but he's also kind of helping her. So it's, on the one hand, I was like, this is kind of dumb. On the other hand, well, I mean, it's actually kind of interesting. You know, this character dealing with her inner demons, and it's an inner demon that we as Scream fans all really know. Like, that actually is kind of a cool thing with it, but also just they're almost trying to make him likable with the fact that he's, like, helping out his daughter. I don't know about that. It's still Billy Loomis. He's still a piece of shit. I don't know. But I actually thought the actual, like, stuff going on was cool. The fact that the Ghostfaces in this movie are passionate fans of the Stab franchise who think the franchise has gone to shit. So they're like, we have to make new killings that are good and interesting, so they'll actually have good shit to make more movies of, is fucking insane. And I love how batshit insane that is. You know, like when with one of the movie's big, like meta commentaries is about toxic fandom in a world where The Last Jedi exists and the toxic fandom around that. Like, fuck, I remember when Darling in the Franxx was airing and the voice actors were getting death threats because of how, like, things their characters did. Or when The Last of Us 2 first came out, I think the woman who played Abby was getting death threats because of what happens at the start of the game. That kind of insanity. Now, I know I was like, dude, toxic fandom, like, I love that shit. Seeing it portrayed as like, no, these people are fucking insane and terrible. I love that portrayal because those people that do that are insane and terrible. And anything that demonizes them, you know, like within reason, like something that still makes it interesting, I think is a good thing. People should not do that shit. You need to be able to separate a person and the people they play, a person and the people they write. You might not like the way a person performs a role. Don't hassle them for it. You might not like the way someone wrote an adaptation of something you liked, or like you might not like Harry Potter Book 8. I hated it. Cursed Child is awful. I don't wish death threats on J.K. Rowling. I know a lot of people do because of her views, but like that's something a little bit different. Like I still don't I don't want to wish death threats on anybody. But if it's because of shit they actually do as a person, again, like death threats I think is a bit much. It's definitely much. But if it's, I don't like them because of, like, their actual, them as a person, the stuff they believe, more understandable. But if it's like, no, you wrote a shitty continuation of something I liked, you don't have to like it. You don't have to like them. But I mean, come on. And I liked the way it was portrayed in Scream 5. So it's a movie I like, but I have a bit more problems with it. And then we get to 6, which of course I'll talk about the specifics. That's kind of my vibe on the Scream movies and my history with them. So I wanted to go ahead and say that. Another thing to say is I was unspoiled for this movie, because I know apparently spoilers were abound. Like I remember on Twitter, because of course I follow Dead Meat on Twitter, they're like, fuck, the movie just got spoiled. I'm mad that I got it spoiled for me. I'm still gonna go see it. Fuck people who give spoilers. Guys, spoilers are abound. Make sure you don't see them. Like, all right, bet. Try to avoid spoilers at all costs. And so I did avoid them, and I was happy about that. So going into some of the more specifics, again, not spoilery anything. Again, like nothing too crazy. Just like basic character beats. Your core 4 from the last movie, which is what they referred to themselves as. That's Sam, Tara, and the twins, Mindy and Chad. They're all now living in New York. I don't know if it was specifically NYU or if it was just a different university in New York. I don't know. Like, I would imagine there's a lot of other universities in New York. It's fucking NYC. But maybe it is just NYU, and I just don't know. But they're in college. Sam is not in college. She just kind of followed her sister there to make sure, like, I'm going to be your guardian, make sure you're fucking okay. She's dealing with her demons. Which, again, like, I do like that. I think it's interesting. She's like, yeah, like, I killed my ex-boyfriend because he was nuts. He tried to, you know, Richie was a Ghostface in the last movie. Like, I killed him because he was trying to kill me. He was trying to kill my family. And I stabbed him, was it 22, 23? Something with a 20. It was like, I stabbed him that many times, and I kind of liked it. Like, it felt good, and my dad was a serial killer, so it worries me. Like, I know why I did it. Like, I didn't do it because I'm a psycho, but the psycho part of me enjoyed it. And I'm kind of worried, and I'm seeking therapy. And her therapist, I don't know the name of the actor, but I know him as the guy who played Conrad Grayson in Revenge, and he also played the dad in Ready or Not, and I believe the directors of Ready or Not directed this movie, because they directed the last one, and Samara Weaving was in the first scene. I was like, oh, I know you from that movie! Oh, I recognize someone in a Scream movie. You're probably gonna die! But, like, anytime this dude is on screen, I really tend to enjoy his performances, so he's like, bitch, you fucking crazy, get out of my office. So, like, I laughed pretty hard. Like, that's not what he said, but that was the vibe. So that's part of her story. The other part of her story is there's a conspiracy online that Richie was innocent, that Sam was actually the killer. Sam is a psycho. and she murdered her boyfriend and framed him as Ghostface so she can keep doing other shit. And because it's the internet, a lot of people believe it. Which again, like, Scream has its commentary in, like, okay, this is a horror movie, these are the rules of a horror movie, but there's also some other, like, more kind of real life commentary that goes on in some of them too. Like, I don't remember as much in 2 and 3, or even that much on the first one. I think the first one was more just like, this is how horror movies work. But 4 with, seeking internet fame, 5 with toxic fandom. 6 to me is a lot about internet culture, how rumors spread really quickly, and even if it's something that is total bullshit and has no basis in reality, people will believe it anyways, and they will act upon it just because of, like, mob mentality. Like I did like that. I thought it was pretty interesting. Her sister, Tara, is essentially, this shitty thing happened to us, but I don't want to live my life as, like, I don't want it to be the thing that happened to me, and now my life has changed forever. I still want to be able to be a normal person. I still want to be able to go to school, get an education, so I can live my life after. I want to, like, if I want to do dumb shit, like get drunk and hook up with a guy at a party, I want to be able to do that because, people do that. Like, is it a good thing? No. Is it a coping mechanism? Kind of, and it's not a good one. Like, I won't deny that. But I want to be able to live my life without being afraid of shit happening to me in the future because fucked up things happened to me in the past. And there's a few scenes where maybe it's a bit too much, because, like, it's mostly, like, focused on really in the beginning, and, like, there's a scene you're like, okay, like, I get where you're coming from, being a little mean to your sister, but I get where you're coming from, and for the most part, I do like the sisters. I do like their vibe and their relationship. I think they both are, like, acted really well. I don't remember the name of Sam's actress. I want to say it's, like, Melissa Carpenter, if I'm right about that. I think the first name is Melissa. I think she does a really good job, and Jenna Ortega does a really good job. Part of that might be that I think she's very attractive. I'm like, she's just gorgeous. And anytime she's on screen, I'm like, oh, the movie is just better because I'm looking at a beautiful human being. And you have the twins, Mindy and Chad. Mindy is still kind of like our Randy character. She is the one that's very much like into horror movies, into the rules. She gives the rule explanation. I like that they deal with the fact that she and Chad are also both very traumatized by what happened because they were both stabbed and it hurt. And they talk about, they're like, that fucking hurt. I don't want that to happen to me again. I don't want that to happen to you either. It fucking sucks being stabbed. Like, I like horror movies. I like watching them. I don't want to be the victim of a horror movie. I don't want to be a victim again. It made her a lot more, like, I enjoyed her in the first one. I thought she was fun. But, like, she felt more human in this, which I liked. And then you have Chad, who feels like he's kind of, I don't know if I want to say he's the emotional center of the group because you've got the relationship between the sisters, but it feels like he is the one that just brings the most good vibes without just being a joke character. Like, he just wants to make sure that everyone is okay, everyone is doing well. He's like, guys, like, we're the core 4, we got a good nickname, we got a vibe going. Like, the nickname fucking sucks, Chad. Like, I'm sorry, you can't just name us that. I think I just did. Come on. Like, I like this dude. I like these people. I don't want to see these people die. But it's a horror movie, so they might. It's a Scream movie, so they might, being a legacy character didn't save Randy, it didn't save Cotton Weary, it didn't save Officer Hicks, it did not save Dewey Riley. I don't know who I'm gonna lose in this movie. And Gail's back in the movie because it's Gail Weathers. Of course she's gonna fucking be in the movie. And Kirby from Scream 4 ends up coming back. They're like, we got more legacy characters. Yeah, we got more legacy characters. Yet. Probably gonna lose someone. Maybe one of them will be a killer. Like, that'd be really, really interesting. And the movie kind of hints about it. Well, like, some of the things they say, they talk about how, like, maybe a legacy character can be a victim, maybe a legacy character can be a killer. And of course, that's not something I'm going to spoil in this part of the video, but we will get to it. But speaking of legacy characters, this is the first Scream movie without Dewey. I have to bring that up because, he fucking died and it sucks. I love Dewey. It's also the first one without Sidney Prescott, which on the one hand feels really, really weird. But I'm glad she's not here. And it's kind of for two reasons. One, this movie is not her story. And I feel like putting Sydney in here would have just been, yeah, she's here for the fan service, which is great. But it also, like, it kind of would have detracted. Like, even in Scream 5, I don't remember feeling that she was super necessary. I'd probably have to rewatch it. But it kind of felt like, Sydney is here because she needs to be here rather than she's... let me rephrase that. She's here because she's supposed to be here, but not because she needs to be. She did not need to be in 6. And from what I understand, it was more of a contractual issue, and both sides are open to her coming back in the future. But I did not feel like, man, Sydney not being here is actively detracting. Like, no, it's not her story. And I like how it's addressed. Gail's like, yeah, I called up Sydney. Oh, is she coming? Fuck no. Like, she doesn't want to come here. She doesn't want to deal with this shit. She's dealt with this shit plenty of times in the future. She's married. She's got kids. She's like, all right, I'm taking the kids. I'm putting them somewhere else so we can be safe for a while. But fuck this shit. Y'all are on your own. Like, less of a, you guys are on your own, fuck you, and more just, nah, fuck this. I hope you're safe. I'm just going to do some other shit. And I liked that a lot. Okay, so other kind of non-spoilery things. The fact that this movie takes place in a new location, like we're not in Woodsboro anymore, which granted, Scream 2 didn't, and Scream 3 didn't either, so it's not the first movie to not be in Woodsboro, but I did enjoy, like, it's somewhere completely different. We're in New York, which, is that, like, super used? Like, do we think crazy with, like, the Statue of Liberty? No. Do we think crazy with, like, I almost like the World Trade Center, but, like, the Empire State Building? No, but that's fine. But, like, there's the scene on the subway, which I thought was actually really cool, really intense. There's not much to really spoil with that because it's been shown in the trailers almost kind of in its entirety, but it's a very tense scene. But what helps is the Halloween thing, because there's just so many other people in masks. And it's kind of just like a nice atmosphere, but in that scene in particular, like, there's a lot of people just dressed as Ghostface. Because it's a popular mask. It's an iconic mask in and out of universe. So we're trying to get to this one specific location for reasons. And we don't know if any of the people here are the killer. That's really cool. And then there's a scene where Mindy just... Like, this I can spoil because you literally see her get stabbed in the stomach in a trailer. Because I remember seeing that being like, they just spoiled this. Come on. But yeah, there's a scene where she sees of someone just coming closer and closer and closer. He, like, gags her and stabs her. Like, oh, that's fucked. Also, I really hope she didn't just die. Also, I really hope they didn't just spoil a major character death in the trailer, which, again, I won't say whether she lives or dies at this part of the video, but it is something that happened in a trailer, so I think I can say that with no spoilers. Maybe that's probably more of a mild spoilers, my bad, but it's a trailer scene, so One thing I will say as a genuine criticism of the movie is something that to me is always important about Scream is, what are the rules? Like, what are we actually talking about? Scream 1, this is a slasher movie, and this is how you survive a slasher. How do you survive, and what are the rules of a sequel, of a trilogy, of a reboot, of a requel? All things that felt... Excuse me. Each one feels kind of different from the last, but it's also like, this is what each movie is. This is a slasher, this is a sequel, this is a trilogy, this is a reboot, this is a requel. So it all tracks. Scream 6 is, this is a franchise. I mean, hasn't it been a franchise for a while? There's 5 movies, a cameo in Dead by Daylight. Wait, is that... No, before Dawn is I think the slasher movie game, and Dead by Daylight is the thing that Ghostface makes a cameo in. There's a show. I think there's 2 shows or like 2 seasons of a show. There might be other games. There's probably some like novelizations or some shit, but we've been a franchise for a while. So to me, that felt really weak. Because everything else is like, no, it's like, yeah, remakes are popular around this time, so this is a remake. Requels are starting to become kind of popular around this time, so this is a requel. This was just kind of, hey, while making fun, because I don't know if these were shot back to back, but it came out a year later, so they probably were. It's like, yeah, this kind of came out back to back. So I guess that makes it a franchise, maybe makes it a little more of a franchise, but I think 2 came out really quickly after 1, or like 3 came out really quickly after 2, so... And 7 has already been confirmed, so what's 7 going to be? Because they just used franchise kind of felt like a bit of a cheat card because they couldn't think of anything specifically that 6 was. And I'm like, we've kind of already been a franchise. I don't know. Like the actual rule explanation of like, yeah, like we got to bring back legacy characters, but they're not necessarily safe. They could be the killers. And then you got the legacy characters in the room just going, right, like, the new people, can't trust you, I really like you, but I can't trust you, and all that kind of shit. Like, I enjoyed the rule explanation, but the actual, like, this is what movie we're in now, it didn't super click with me. But so my overall thoughts and vibe on Scream 6, without going more into spoilers, is I thought the movie had, like, really good chase scenes. It's a Scream movie. Like, there's some fun ones. Like, if you've seen the trailers, then there's the one with, like, Gale in the house with Ghostface. That one's a lot of fun. Like, there's this underground movie theater where they have, like, a big chase, like, in the 3rd act. That's fun. Like, the convenience store scene, which you've seen in trailers, which is... I love that scene. There's a scene... okay, I'll put a pin in that one. Like, that one's not in any trailers. That one feels a little bit spoilery, and I kind of spoiled where the 3rd act takes place, but... Once you've seen the movie, you kind of know where it's going to end up taking place. I haven't said anything too specific, so I think it's okay. Sorry. But the chases are fun. We've got good kills. I enjoy seeing legacy characters, both our core 4 and Gale and Kirby. Without going to the specifics of the reveal, I did like the reveal. I did think it was actually pretty fun and pretty interesting. I didn't get the specifics of the killers down. I mean, one of them was like, okay, it's probably you. Well, I don't want to actually go into, like, numbers of killers or anything. So, yeah, I will not say anything about the reveal. I would just say I liked the reveal. Okay, I think that's basically it. It's like, I liked the movie. I liked the movie a lot. And I actually really liked the character work that they did. In terms of a ranking, to me, it would go, not including Scream 2, because I don't super remember it. I remember Scream 3 is at the bottom. Then it would be 5, 6, 4, 1. After watching 6, I was like, do I like it more than 4? Do I like it as much as 4? And the more I thought about it, the more I'm like, no, I like 4 more. But 6 is not far behind. And it's not like, yeah, 5 is near the bottom, but I still liked it quite a bit. Like, I got some problems with it. And then it's Chef's Kiss, that crown fucking jewel of a movie. So, that's my thought on it. Like, if you like the Scream movies, go watch it. I feel like you will enjoy, again, like, you'll get the chase scenes that are really good in the series. You'll get some good kills. You'll get to see characters you know and hopefully, like, do shit. I think you would probably enjoy the reveal. Now, maybe you won't. I don't know. I think you'd enjoy the opening scene, which, when we get into mild spoilers, is the first thing I'm talking about. Overall, I enjoyed the movie a lot. I would highly recommend it. If you're not a Scream fan, though, this is probably not the movie for you. Because it goes heavy into Scream lore, into, like, this is every previous Ghostface. So, like, if you haven't watched the movies, start with the first one. Like, and it's not just like, yeah, it's the one at the start. Like, you really start at the first one because there is a strong continuity between all these movies. It's kind of like Trails in that way. With a lot of other JRPGs, like Final Fantasy, Tales of. Yeah, some games might have, or like Dragon Quest. Some games might have very specific sequels. Or they might be like, yeah, this one and this one are connected, but there's a lot of time in between them, so make of that what you will. But for the most part, you can play games independently of each other. With Trails, no, you start at Sky because it is a consistent story. Can you play Crossbell without playing Sky? Sure, but you're also going to spoil Sky, and then some of the things that happen are direct continuation from that, and so they're not going to be as impactful. To me, Scream is very similar, especially this movie. Oh, sorry, I just got a text about something. I'm going to have to... Oh, I just realized... sorry, I got a text about a work thing, and I was a little confused, and I just realized, oh, that's probably what happened. Ah, crap. Is not a good thing to have happened, but hopefully it won't be the worst. Anyways, movie's really good. Go watch it. If you're not a Scream fan, do other shit first. Okay, so now we transition into mild spoilers. Give you a second. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Boom. So the opening scene of the movie is Samara Weaving, who is I don't know how super recognizable she is, but I've seen Ready or Not, so I recognized her, so I immediately went, oh, you're the first victim of the movie. She's in a bar, waiting to meet someone. It sounds like she met online. They're having a conversation, and it's like she answers the call, but it's not the Ghostface voice that answers. And they're having a conversation about like, hey, like, I don't see you. I've been trying to find you. I'm getting lost. I'm sorry. I'm really embarrassed that this is kind of our first meeting. And she ends up going outside the restaurant. He says he's going through an alley. Is there an alley nearby? There is. So she walks into the alley. And there's a part where the person on the other line ends up saying, and this is when the Ghostface voice kicks in, that I can't believe that you teach a course on slasher movies. Because she said, like, yeah, I teach this course on slasher movies, talking about my scary movies are dumb and shit. Like, you teach a course on slashers and you walked into the alley alone. And then Ghostface shows up, stabs her multiple times, and kills her. Then Ghostface takes off the mask, and you see who the killer is. Also recognized, I'm like, isn't that the guy who plays Flash Thompson in the MCU? But it's also like, we're like 5 minutes in, and we've just seen the face of the killer. Oh, and I remember someone like in the back of the theater audibly gasped when that happened. And that got me really, really excited. Like, wait a second. Is that what Scream 6 is? Are we going to start with the killer reveal? And so a lot of the movie, like the tension of the movie isn't we don't know who's behind the mask. It's dramatic irony where we, the audience, know exactly who's behind the mask. And it's just like we're seeing how they're setting shit up. We're seeing how they're trying to, get to our protagonists. We're actually going to see them interacting with their partner, assuming there is one. And then very quickly, you're like, okay, yeah, this guy does have a partner. Like, oh, that's a really interesting idea for a Scream movie. I'm down with this. I want to see where this goes. And so he ends up going home, looking for his roommate. His roommate calls him up using the Ghostface voice, and he's like, dude, come on, man. We said we wouldn't use the voice with each other. He's like, come on, like you went ahead and killed somebody. Tell me what it's like. Like, how did it feel? And so, I don't remember his name. It's like Jeff or some shit, so I'm just going to call him Flash. So Flash is like, it was better than I thought. Better than I could have ever expected. When we, when the knife first went into her, it's like she wasn't human anymore. She was just meat. And then as I kept going and going and going, just the less human she became. Also, she gave me like a C- on my test, so, fuck that bitch. And, his roommate is admonishing him for killing without him, for killing someone that they know, and not going after just Sam and Tara to finish Richie's movie. So again, immediately tying it into 5. And he's like, hey, dude, like, where are you? I told you, I'm here in the house. Yeah, but, like, why don't you come out? Like, well, since we're already doing this, why don't we play a game? What's your favorite scary movie? And while that's going on, he's like, hey, we're going to play a game of hot or cold. You walk around, like, I'm like, oh, Dick, you're using the camera so you can see where I am. Yeah, but, like, I'll let you know when you're getting hot or cold. So the guy's walking around the house, and then he thinks he found where he is, and he opens brain stopped. He opens like a closet, and Ghostface isn't in there, or like his partner isn't in there, so the other Ghostface isn't in there. And he's like, no, come on, you haven't found me yet. And then he like goes back. He's in the kitchen, like warmer, cold. Turns around, sees the fridge. Warmer, you're piping hot. So he opens the fridge, and his roommate's body is in the fridge. Then Ghostface shows up, stabs the dude, stabs him a couple times, and I don't remember exactly what he said. He's like, do you feel like meat now? And then says some other shit and kills him, and then you get the title card. So that's all the opening scene. I was like, that was fucking gnarly. We got a kill. we got a Ghostface reveal. And then it turns out it wasn't even the real Ghostface. Like that was really cool. I had a lot of fun with it. Now, I will say, kind of thinking about it, I'm like, you teased a really different movie in those first few minutes of us following the killer. I guess killers, because it was two dudes. Which is just not what ended up happening. Or the idea of, two separate groups of killers, both independently trying to kill the protagonists, and how they're also kind of infighting. It's like, that also sounds like a really unique movie. There's two... I don't want to... Because I really like the movie we got, and I think that's important to say. So I'm not trying to say, man, we got this instead of this or this. But the idea of the movie is about two separate killer groups trying to get the protagonist, and them not knowing at all what is going on. And so literally the third act is, wait, we're trying to kill Sidney Prescott. No, we're trying to kill Sidney Prescott. So they're trying to kill each other while trying to kill the protagonists. Sounds like a clusterfuck of a third act that I can't wait to watch. Or the idea of your protagonist in the movie is the killer, and the other characters just don't know. And you got like the scenes where like they're explaining the rules, like, this is why you're a suspect. And we the audience know, and they're like, no, we're not a suspect, blah, blah, blah. This is like, this is how we met. It was completely innocuous. Especially if they just start turning to the camera. It's like, actually, this is how I did it. Like, that could be such a fun movie. Maybe that'll be what happens in Scream 7. Like, enough people are like, that was a really cool idea that we'll be following the killers or killer. And then when we get to the third act is when we find out they're not the only killers going after them. Or like partway through they realize, hey, I'm the killer, but that's someone else. There are two ghost faces, but they're not working together. Holy shit, this movie could be insane. I really want to see that, but like, I had a lot of fun with the opening scene. My favorite scene in the movie, now like the train scene I think is really intense. I saw it in the trailers already, but I thought it was really good. The convenience store scene, which is also in the trailer, so you've pretty much seen it in its entirety, is really good, really tense. I really like it. My favorite scene is the ladder scene. So what happens is Ghostface is just in the house. Like in one of their roommates' rooms, like she's turned away, she's on her phone, so she doesn't see him, and Ghostface is just there in the corner looking down on her. And the dude across the hall, who is Sam's boyfriend, sees this like through the window and is like yelling at the girl to get her attention, but she can't hear it. So then he goes to the other side and is yelling at the core four to try to get their attention. They can't hear him. So he pulls out his phone, calls them, but they're having like a nice fun conversation. They're like, you're getting called by your boyfriend. They're kind of fucking with her, so she doesn't get a chance to answer. Then Ghostface ends up like, they hear the roommate like yelling. They're like, damn, like she's really going at it right now. And then they're like, wait a second, that doesn't sound like sex. And they get a picture of her like all tied up, and they're like, oh shit, he's in the house. Door gets kicked open, their roommate's body gets thrown at them. They're like, oh, fuck, like, she's dead. Oh, shit. And I remember immediately thinking when that happened, I was like, she was one of my biggest suspects at this point. Like, I was really sus with her. And I remember me and my friend that I went to go see it with, like, we kept looking at each other a few times. Like, she's got to be a killer, right? She's got to be a killer, right? And then that happened, and I was like, did they fake that body? And I gotta look at it, I was like, no, that looks like her. She's dead. Alright, she's off my suspect list. Sorry I suspected you. But, I remembered I did end up thinking that. I was like, did they fake a body? Has that ever happened in a Scream movie? I just had to think, like, has that? I'm not sure. It might have, and I'm just not quite remembering. But has there been a point where someone seemingly died, and then, and not just like, the killer comes back for one final scare, because of course, that's Scream tradition. I was like, has someone ever... Did Roman fake his death in Scream 3? I feel like that's something that... that did happen. So, I guess they have done that before, but I didn't even think of that. I was like, if that happens, it's like, that'd be really interesting. But I guess she's just fucking dead. But while this shit is going on, like, Sam tries to find the knives, but the knives are not there anymore. They're like, oh shit, someone in our house, like someone in our group took the knives and hid them so we can't fight back. Shit. Mindy ends up getting stabbed. Like, she gets cut. I think it's sliced, actually. She gets cut on the arm, so she's hurt. Mindy's girlfriend, like, gets stabbed, and the knife, like, tears up. And you're like, oh, that's pretty fucked. So this is going on. They're getting chased through the house. They end up, like, locking the door. Ghostface goes around, so they end up having to block that door. And the boyfriend opens his window, and he pulls out a ladder. He's like, okay, this is the only way I can get to you. You have to crawl across the ladder and get into my room. Excuse me. So, and it's a long way down, and, like, it's quite a way across, but, Sam's going, it's kind of rickety, but she makes it, and then Mindy with her fucked up arm is going across, and it's rickety, but she makes it, and then her girlfriend Annika is going across, and it's really rickety. She's like, I fucking can't. And she's bleeding from her stomach, and she's terrified of heights, and then Ghostface gets into the room. And then Ghostface is just standing there behind them, part of the ladder in his room, and then he just gives it a good shake. Then he gives it another good shake, and then Annika's holding on for dear life. She's trying to move, and then Sam's reaching for her, and Mindy's reaching for it. Everyone's crying, everyone's freaking out. And then, it's like I'm driving a fucked up car. And then, she ends up falling to her death. That is my favorite scene in the movie. It was so fucking tense seeing that ladder. He's like, yeah, I'm definitely afraid of heights. If I was stabbed and badly bleeding, and that, like, like, I'm just kind of playing it in my head, like, oh boy, yickety yikes. But I think that's a great scene. I think it's a really intense scene. Again, it's my favorite in the movie. Another scene I really like is the scene from the trailer when the killer is with Gale. And, like, the conversation they have on the phone, like, hey, Gale, like, you've never been called like this. It's happened to Sydney a few times. And, Sydney was always the leading lady, and, Dewey was the fan favorite. But you kind of always been the third wheel. Like, if any of them was likely to snap and turn into Ghostface, it would be you. And, like, the conversation they have, I actually thought was really fun. And, yeah, Gale just fucking pulls out a Glock and just going for it. It's really cool. I think that's really all I have to say about mild spoilers. So now we're going to go into the major spoilers. So we talk about the reveal and the people who lived and died, or, I just spoiled a death with Annika. I feel like that's a new character dying. It's like, that's kind of a mild spoiler. Major, like, to me, the legacy characters and their fates and the Ghostface reveal is, like, the major shit. So maybe I should have made that a little more clear. I'm sorry if I fucked that up. Legacy characters. So, again, it's the major spoilers. Let me get the countdown. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, boom. No legacy character dies in this movie. None of them are killers. It is all new people. Like I said, I like these people. I don't want to see them die. And I like when they focus on them being legacy characters, like how Kirby's like, yeah, like, this is the knife, because there's ends up being, like, the climax takes place in this, like, underground Ghostface museum with a bunch of artifacts throughout all the movies. And there's one where, like, this is the TV that killed Stu Macher. Yeah, if you really believe he's dead. And, like, I'm glad they called attention to it. I still want him to come back at some point. Which I know Matthew Lillard does do cameos, like, voice cameos in the movies. Like, at the Stab 8 Ghostface with the flamethrower, it's like, this shit is lit! That was Matthew Lillard doing the voice. Like, that shit's cool. But, fuck, what was I saying? Oh, yeah, so, I talk about how, like, that's the knife that stabbed Kirby, and how she's still kind of, like, mentally recovering from that. Like, yeah, this is why I joined the FBI. She's a fucking FBI agent. Is, to make sure shit like this doesn't happen to people. Like, I didn't want to be a victim anymore. I wanted to be someone who helped people. You've got, again, Mindy and Chad talking about how shitty it was being stabbed, and how it ends up happening to both of them again. They both get pretty brutally stabbed, but both make it out okay. And on the one hand, like I said, like, I like these people, I don't want to see them die, but on the other hand, we had, like, 6 legacy characters in this movie, and none of them died. It's kind of taking the coward's way out. Like, I feel like you should have offed at least one of them. Now, I'm not going to say who, because I don't want to have to pick. But, like, Gale gets fucked up. Gale gets, like, pretty badly stabbed, and yeah, she's fine. And then there's this thing of, like, maybe Kirby could end up being one of the killers, and, like, she actually fucking snapped, and no, it's not a thing. They're all new. Like, it's not bad. It's really not. But it is that I question it just a little bit. It's like someone probably should have died. Maybe not have snapped into a killer. That would have been character assassination for sure, but still would have been interesting. But at least one of the characters should have been assassinated. You know. Let's see. What does that say? Sorry, I'm trying to look at my notes. I see under the mild spoilers it says no something. No penny? I don't even know what them. Oh, it's opening. Sorry, my handwriting is so bad sometimes I don't know how to read it. But I did talk about those. So like the big spoilers, like I said, the legacy characters all live, and then the Ghostface reveal. So the Ghostface, there's 3 in this movie. It's the father, brother, and sister of Richie from Scream 5. They're the ones who started the rumor that Richie was innocent. Sam did all this shit and killed him because, like, yeah, like, we know what he did. But he's our family. That was our son. That was our brother. And you murdered him. Fuck you. Our thing is we are going to kill you because we need to avenge our brother and our son. And we'll go for anyone who's in our way. Anyone who's protecting you, they're dead. You are the target. Which I like. I actually think that's really interesting. It ends up being Chad's new roommate, Tara's roommate, the one who died but didn't die, and then her dad, who is a cop. And there was definitely a point in the movie where I was like, I think, like, we have 2 cops. We've got this guy and Kirby. One of them is probably in on it with, like, this whole big Ghostface museum and all this shit. And they're like, yeah, you know, cops can be bribed to get shit. And I'm like, oh, okay, so yeah, it's probably at least one of them. And the other 2, I was like, you're really suspicious, you're really suspicious. So literally when Mindy's like, here's our new character suspects, one of them dies, the other 2 are both killers. And like I said, I was like, I feel like you're definitely a killer. Oh shit, looks like you died. But nope, they faked it. She is a killer. I was like, all right, so I was right. But I thought the actual, like, reveal of who they are, like, as people, like, seeing the faces, I thought was good. It's not as good as 4's, for my personal opinion, but it was good. The reveal of, like, what their plan is, though, is like, this one makes a lot of sense. It is actually kind of sympathetic. Again, it's like, it's for our family. They're still terrible people. They're still on a murder spree, so I don't want to be like, oh yeah, I was rooting for them. Like, no, fuck them. But at the same time, like, this one's surprisingly sympathetic for a Scream movie. And there's a part where Mindy's talking about the rules, where they bring up Scream 2. And like, well, yeah, like, you know, the second movie, you know, took place at a college. We're at a college, and, you know, we're kind of the second one to this one. You know, that's kind of similar. And I was like, oh, okay. They even talk about how there's a part where, like, a bunch of them are in a van in broad daylight. They're like, do you think that makes us safe? That's how our uncle died. Oh, yeah, so it's another callback to Scream 2. And just like in Scream 2, it's the family of the killer from the last movie. It's like, I appreciated that. It was a good callback. I liked that. And also, like in Scream 2, the love interest was not a suspect. He was completely cleared. So, yeah, I guess that's about it. So, like, that's the Ghostface reveals. Those are the our survivors. And, you know, there's some other people who end up dying. Like I said, Samara Weaving dies in the first scene. Samara? I'm not sure. I think I said Samara earlier. That sounds right, but I don't actually know. Conrad Grayson, do I have to call him? He ends up dying. Basically, everyone in the convenience store dies. Those 2 killers in the opening scene die. Of course, your 3 Ghostfaces die. That scene from the trailer with Ghostface, like, looking like he's in a theater or whatever, and is like, you know, there's never been one like me before. That scene is actually Sam, because their plan is, we're using all the previous masks from the last to the first. They're like, oh, they must be counting down to something. So what they're counting down to is, like, we're going to kill all your friends, Sam. Then we're going to kill you, and we're going to put this mask on you. And it's Billy Loomis's mask. And our thing is that, like, you went crazy and you snapped. That's what we're counting down to. And then at the end of the movie, she puts on the mask when she kills the last Ghostface. I'm like, that's pretty hype. I like that a lot. So yes, overall, those are my thoughts on Scream 6. That's the shit that happened. That's what I thought of it. I really, really liked the movie. It's not my favorite Scream. It's not my favorite Scream sequel. but I still think like it gave me what I want in a Scream movie. Characters that I know and like. I know and love. I don't know why I said like. But like I know these people, I like these people, I want to see them make it. Fun chases, fun kills, a fun and interesting reveal, some interesting meta shit. Although I feel like I said, I think the rules were more interesting than the actual premise when it came to the meta. But overall, good shit.